We start with that, Renee?
Yeah.
Who do you work for? Who do you work for?
Gilead Sciences.
Oh, cool.
You ready? Okay, I call to order this meeting of the Parks and Recs Commission on March 14th at 6:30. Roll call.
Jimenez here.
Boggs here.
Bolagoff here.
Fryer here.
Cavino present.
Needham here.
Adoption of the agenda. I would like to propose that for the agenda we move new business ahead of old business. That's the introduction of new senior recreation leader, so that she doesn't have to sit through all of the old business.
Okay.
You need that seconded?
We need a
You
second.
need a vote.
I'll
Yeah, I
second
second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approval of minutes.
I had no problems with it.
I had one little typo.
Okay.
On page 2 under old business, recreation manager
Oh, Maureen
Leak, needs a K. Which is funny coming from me because I can't spell. Okay, do we have a motion to?
I move that we approve the minutes as read with one correction.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Citizens communications, we have no one here from the community tonight, so we'll move on to new business, introduction of new senior recreation leader, Sarah Nahas. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
How do you prefer it to be pronounced?
Nahas or Nahas is fine.
Yes.
All right. Well, this is Sarah, everybody. This is Sarah. We're very excited to have her on board helping us out in our after-school program. Just a little bit of her background. She graduated from the University of San Francisco with a Bachelor's of Arts degree in psychology with an emphasis in youth and child studies. She worked for multiple cities on the peninsula, including Pacifica, Millbrae, and Burlingame, in various areas, specifically childcare, but also on special events and summer camps. Most recently, she's helped out the city of Burlingame in their teen services division. So she's kind of done it all in terms of the childcare side. A few fun facts about her. She likes art and painting and knitting. She has a love of hiking and nature. She was on her high school and collegiate rowing teams. So she's an athlete too. We're really excited to have her on board. She's done a lot of great things with the program already. She has brought more structure to the program. She rolled out a Shutterfly share site for parents, which has increased communication with the parent community, but also it's a platform to be used for calendar scheduling reminders regarding registration or upcoming events. And she uploads photos weekly for parents so they get to see what their kids are doing on a weekly basis, which is nice too. She did a fun week of Camp Olympics when we had the Winter Olympics going on and got some great photos from that. And then upcoming for spring, she has a few new enrichment clubs that she's rolling out. A Pokemon club, which is very popular these days. A Lego club, cooking and nutrition club, and then continuing on with the Challenge Island STEAM club that was very popular that we ran last time. So she's brought a lot of new kind of energy and excitement, and we've had a lot of great parent feedback as well. So we're really excited to have her on board. And I will bring her back later this year to give a full kind of, we talked about program presentations at our commission workshop, and so we'll be doing that for various program areas, and the Club Rec program will be one of them. So we'll bring her back later this year, and you can fire questions at her, but I figured for now we just ease her in and introduce her to everybody so you can put a face to the name. So I don't know if you want to add anything. Do I have to get really close?
Yeah.
Close-ish. Close-ish. I mean, I'm really grateful for this job, and I'm having a lot of fun so far. So, yeah, thank you all for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Any comments, questions for Sarah?
Thanks.
Sarah, are you working? You're working in the Club Rec program. Is that That's right, okay. Well, thanks for coming down. It's good to meet you, and we look forward to hearing a report on activities at Club Rec later this spring. Thank you. Okay, moving on to old business, budget review and recommendations.
All right, so this is a continuation of the budget item that was on our last agenda in the February meeting, and talked briefly about it in our workshop last week. I don't can you put that? Yeah, I think so. So what we provided to you on the dais and what we're providing on the screen behind you, hopefully in a minute. One of the things that the commission had requested was kind of a better layout that compared the expenses of our annual budget against the annual revenues. And so we went ahead and listed that for you guys so that you could also see the cost recovery percentage. I will note that, let me get it in front of me so I'm speaking correctly. So the first column is fiscal year 2016 and 2017, which was last year. So you get to see kind of a full year of expenses and revenues, and the cost recovery for last year was about just under 28%. And then the second column is the current fiscal year, which is 2017 and 18. So you can see what our budgeted expenses were and our year-to-date revenue. So at this point, and this report was through the end of February, cost recovery states that it's only at 14.88%, and that's because it's just year-to-date. And so we have an additional 4 months of revenues that will be captured before the end of this fiscal year. And just looking down the line, it looks like we'll be on track to hit the same, very close to the same cost recovery percentage that we had in the last fiscal year. So I opened it up to the commission. You've been provided with the master fee schedule at our last meeting that lists our fees for programs and services, as well as kind of the program-based expenditures by the various programs listed on the top part of that slide, as well as the revenues and the cost recovery percentage now.
So are we supposed to go through a process now of recommending fee increases or reviewing the fees for
right, so
Parks and Rec programs?
yes.
Pool
so,
fees and rental fees for Mission Blue Center and all those sorts of things. Is that what we are doing here next?
Yes. So if the commission would like to make any recommendations regarding the budget to City Council, now would be the time to identify what those are and direct staff to anticipate, do some research on costs for the projected additional expenses. And then if there's any recommendations regarding fee increases, now would be the time to do that as well.
Does the city have any expectation that you're gonna continue to increase our revenues and make the percent higher that we recover?
There's no cost recovery directives from City Council.
Okay, cool.
The general understanding is that we would project similar to years past, but that we wouldn't really drop significantly down unless there was something to attribute that to.
And so the increases that you guys have already shown in the stuff we got earlier, like the idea of the increases, those were all considering things like we're raising salaries a little bit maybe, so that's why we're increasing it, right? Because the cost is going up a little bit, so we need to
Increasing what?
I thought when we got the stuff in February, we got sheets for the park and rec fees for what they are, and then what
The master
we're
fee
hoping they
schedule?
will be. Do we have a possible?
Mm,
Oh, thank you. Keeps going sideways.
so the master fee schedule that you have has the current fees.
Okay.
And when's the last time we've raised fees?
All right. Thank you.
Well, we just raised fees for the after-school program, and that was a separate item that was approved by City Council. That was to justify the increase in salaries for the after-school program staff. As far as the other fees are concerned, that happened at the beginning of this 2-year budget cycle, which was 2 years ago. And they were all minor increase. I want to say like 2% maybe, 1 or 2%.
Yeah, it looks like some of the increases were just
And-
like $1.
Correct, yes.
Right.
They're very minor. And then Mission Blue did not have any fee increases the last budget cycle.
And has the rental of Mission Blue Center been increasing? There has been conversations in the past about the competitive rental facilities, and that Mission Blue was maybe priced higher than some of the competitors, and we were waiting for playing catch up and not increasing the fees, or what's the thinking on that?
So right now, I will say that revenues for facility rentals are down. And we anticipate that that is because we have a significant number of nonprofit organizations that utilize the facility and don't pay. But also the last year and this coming year, we will be using Mission Blue for summer camp, which means that 9 weeks out of the year, Mission Blue cannot be used for paid reservations during the summer.
And we are turning away rental
correct.
inquiries because it's already reserved by
That's correct.
community organizations.
Yes.
That was going to be one of my other questions on camps.
Mhm.
Looks like the bulk of the funds, is it presumably associated like summer camp, just because it's
Yeah,
pretty
it's
big delta?
seasonal camps.
Got it.
Summer camp, winter camp, spring camp, and then we have a couple of one-day camps.
And then I did have a question on the 2017-18 adopted fee on the preschool non-resident. That went down, but it seems a lot closer to the resident. Was that just in order to make it competitive, or is there another kind of rationale on that one?
Preschool non-resident, you said?
Yes, it was 404 in 2016-17, and then 360 17-18. Not recommending that we change it, just out of curiosity what the context behind
Yeah,
that.
I don't remember at the top of my head, but we could go back and look why that was. Because
If I'm reading this correctly, both the preschool resident and the non-resident goes down. Non-resident goes down significantly. Resident goes down just by $7.
Mhm.
Was it the number of days? Yeah, we can go back and look at that. I don't remember off the top of my head. The time?
And then
Are we starting at 8? So then that's the difference. We were starting the program at 8, and we changed from a start time to 8:30.
Hmm.
So I think based on the number of hours the program was in session, that's why the fee was adjusted.
got it.
Yeah. But the non-resident, that is kind of a red flag, so we'll have to look at why that was. We can bring that back.
And then you already addressed kind of the facility rental ones, because that one,
Mhm.
if I just do like a next 4 months trend, they'll be down. That makes sense.
Yes.
On the aquatics one, that one also looks like that'll be decently down relative to last year. And so in context of that, is that just lower demand? Like kind of what's going on?
You mean for the revenue?
Yes. Because I think that would then
Um,
influence kind of what your pricing decision would be, whether or not you'd want to keep it the same, even potentially reduce it if it's...
As far as revenue is concerned, at the end of the last fiscal year, we were $206,000, and this year we're at 113, which is a little more than halfway. So I think we'll be fairly close to that revenue number. I don't think we'll be substantially down.
Okay.
So what's your recommendation to us? I mean, this is a lot of little small numbers to go through and raise things by $1, $2, $3, $4 and so on. And yet this is for a 2-year period that we're, no, I'm sorry, this is for a 1-year period. We should do something keeping in line with the increase in costs. Do we recommend a 2%, for example, a 2% increase across the board? And I know that the danger of that in the past is that if we do 2% and 2% and 2%, but we're always rounding off to the nearest cents, then at some point they get a little bit out of whack. But what's your recommendation to us?
I mean, part of the responsibility of the commission is to act in an advisory capacity in terms of the budget for the department to city council and to make recommendations based on trends and what's happening and whether or not there's justification for an increase in fees. So it's really to the commission if there are specific recommendations you want to make regarding the master fee schedule or expenses.
So I just threw the
You kicked
ball on
it to
your
me,
court,
and I'm kicking it back to
definitely
you.
kicked it back to us. So what do you guys
Through
think?
the
Wait.
chair, I'm just wondering if we should follow the Consumer Price Index. I know from February to February, I was just looking at this yesterday, it's a 3.6% increase. We went from December, I think it was at 2.9. If we do a fiscal year and look at what the percentage was from 2 years ago to this point, everything is going up. I think at least doing an increase based on the CPI might be worthwhile to think about.
Okay.
That's how districts do a lot of times do their budgets, and we are going to see inflation because interest rates are rising. So I would imagine our cost of doing these services for the community are going to go up. So I
Yeah.
would think that we definitely, I think that's a good guideline.
Yeah, I mean, and we can approach it from across the board and say we want to increase fees based on a percentage across the board, or we could look at things individually, for example, facility rentals, and say, okay, what's going on there? Do we want to dive a little bit deeper into that conversation? And I will add that the commission can decide to do that down the line, and if it wants to make a recommendation down the line to city council because of new information or further discussions that happen at the subcommittee level and amongst the commission, that can always happen at a later time. It's not like this is your only opportunity to make a recommendation. I mean, now is the time because it's budget cycle, but you saw, for example, with the after school program several months ago that happened out of cycle, and it was because of a series of circumstances that led to that. So I don't want you to feel like this is the one chance you have to make a recommendation, but that we can dive deeper into, preschool fees or after-school program fees or facility rental fees. And
Through the chair, I'm kind of focused on the community park rentals right here. And I noticed that there really isn't a very big difference at all between resident and non-resident. And it just seems to me renting that park, to residents should be a perk. And it really shouldn't be as much of a perk to non-residents.
where is it?
I'm just looking to see what it, 'cause to me it seems like it's an over double.
Oh, really? I'm looking at like the, let me see.
Yeah, it is.
So
It is-
for residents, it's $17 an hour, and for non-residents, it's $39 an hour.
Okay, wait, what am I looking?
I think you're looking
You
at
might
I was
be
the
looking
looking
at all the
years.
things-
from one
Well, I
fiscal
was
year
looking
to
at
the
all
next.
the things underneath, like lawn area resident under 50. It looks like it's 8.
Yeah, so for residents, it's $8 if you have less than 50 to rent the lawn,
Okay.
and then it goes up from there. I believe the non-resident starts at $27 an hour to rent the lawn if it's under 50. So there is a considerable difference
Okay.
between resident and non-resident. And then if you look at the
I was reading
gazebo,
it
you'll
wrong,
see a
sorry.
huge difference.
Yes. Okay.
So yeah, no, it's okay. I think you were probably looking like from left to right or
I
something.
was.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing. Because I was looking at, yeah, that's what I was doing. Sorry.
Oh, no, don't, it's fine. I mean, I think, as you can see, we only raised the resident fee by $1, and we raised the well, it looks like we did raise the non-resident fee only by $1 as well. I thought we had raised it a little bit more, but I guess we just raised everything across the board by like $1.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, to say, I think kind of looking at it based on inflation and just eyeballing it, I think a lot of them are looking like they're following that general rule just by kind of a dollar or two here and there and kind of rounding. I think the one that I would go back on, and I think you guys will come back, is just the preschool one, because that seems like a pretty non-resident one, precipitous drop on that one. At least that's my opinion. And the other ones that look like they're staying a little flat is clearly the daily admission, but that also might be just easy for making change. Oh, daily admission to aquatics. I apologize.
Can I just say one thing? Go back to the preschool.
Sure.
And I've been here now for 4 years, and I think in 4 years we may have had 1 or 2 actual non-residents that are even in the, because the lottery is
such that
yeah,
it
open
rewards.
to residents first, and it pretty much usually fills up before any non-residents are able to get in. Not that that's not an issue, and we still need to look at that, but just for that reference.
If that makes sense.
I'll just interject and say that typically non-residents for most of our programs and classes pay 20% more. So I'm looking at that number now, realizing that's not 20% more. So we'll go back to that.
I mean, I think our goal is to drive community engagement, and keeping costs low is, I think, part of that. And then looking at kind of that inflationary guidance, there's only a few dollars here and there, so it feels like the right things are in here. That's just my opinion. So I don't know if others
Yeah, and
would agree with that.
historically, my understanding is that fee increases have been, 1%, 2%, very minor.
Yeah, and they seem
incremental
to be
increases.
along that line.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the easiest way to go, although I'm mindful that if we are raising $5 by 2%, it gets rounded down to $5, and then you're 4 or 5 years out, and it's still only $5 because we're always rounding it. Rounding it down, is there some way that we sort of track how that has become a little unequal? The rounding error, as it were, becomes a little unequal in the smaller number of fees, where a 2% or a 3% increase wouldn't really be reflected.
Yeah, I mean, we can always go back to past master fee schedules to assess that. If there were something specifically like the daily entry fee for aquatics, we could go back and look, has it, how long has it been at $5, and is it time to increase that fee? And yeah, comparatively, with other pools, what are they charging? So if that's something that the commission wanted to look at, we could certainly do that.
What's your thoughts?
Well, I think that inflation is happening, and it hasn't happened in this country since I've moved to Brisbane in 2001. So there's really been housing interest has stayed low, but now things are starting to go up. So if we're looking at what we're going to have to anticipate for next year, I definitely think we should look at maybe, like you were saying, I think we used to call it COLA, but
It's
same
COLA
idea.
or CPI.
So
Same.
it's at 2.9, you said?
2.9 in December from the prior December. Right now in February, it's 3.6.
Oh, wow.
But if we're going to do it by fiscal year, we might want to wait and see what that number is.
Do we need to give, I think it sounds like we need to give you an answer like now, soon.
Unless we want to bring it back to our next meeting.
Yeah, we either kick the can down the road, or we give
Yeah.
some guidance
Exactly.
now, or we can give some partial guidance and say we want more information.
And I'll mention that we are continuing on a 2-year budget cycle. So this is a 2-year budget. So if the commission decides they want to, increase by CPI and go with maybe 3% or 4%, they could do 2% in the first fiscal year and 2% the next fiscal year, or 3% each year.
Right.
So the recommendation there, so that's what I was thinking. I was contemplating 3% per year, right? So again, it was 2.9 December, 3.6. Over time, it'll either it'll even out, I believe, so I think the 3% increase per year is reasonable to propose to City Council about fees.
Seems to me, like I say, $5 for aquatics a person, and it stayed the same, 5 and 7 for non-resident. Seems like that could be raised more than staying the same.
Could we ask staff to give us a sense of what the fees would look like if we raise them at, we're saying 3% a year? But also looking back a little bit to see how long, because it's such a small increase that we do each year, some of those smaller fees don't ever go up because we're always rounding it back down. And would it be too arduous a task to identify which ones of those, like, for example, aquatic fees, this might be the year where they actually jump by $1, because we're not going to make it $1.03 or $5.15.
Right, and no, it wouldn't be too arduous to do that. I mean, we're really just talking about the smaller numbers because those are the ones that
That's going to
incremental
get
increases are
it's going to
not
get
really
uneven
impacted.
over
Right.
a 3, 4, 5 year.
Right. So what we could do is we could isolate which fees those are and then give you a little bit of history on them if that's what you're asking
Yes.
for. And then also project what a 3% increase in the next 2 fiscal years would look like against the current fees. So we could bring that back to our next meeting.
At the
if you'd
next
like.
meeting, is that a
Per year.
satisfactory?
3% per year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a satisfactory solution to everybody? We're not quite kicking the can down the road, but we're not deciding tonight. We'll have a second look at it.
We could have a second look at it.
Yeah. If it's possible, I know that this asks you to do a lot, but if it's possible to get that to us before the meeting, then we
Sure.
can look at it.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, is that everything on budget review and recommendations? We are not going to talk in this part about recommendations for capital improvements, is that?
That's correct.
That's correct. Is
That will come next year because we do CIP recommendations on the alternating year.
Okay. All right, so that is everything. That brings us down to reports. Chairperson, I did have one thing to report. I went and spoke to the Open Space and Technology, their last meeting at the end of February, and I talked to them about 3 things that I thought were of intersecting interests between our commission and their commission. Of course, I spoke not that these were things that we had decided on, but rather these were things that we were in discussion about. The first of them being the signboards, and talking about the signboards and our interest in replacing them, and the history behind their being not really in compliance with our community's commitment to the environment. Then I also talked to them about Crocker Trail and our interest in bringing together several things to make Crocker Trail a really featured connector between the 2 areas of the community. And the interest for them would be about the environmental features of the Crocker Trail. And then I did the third thing, which is somewhat connected, is I mentioned the dog training facility that's up at that meadow up at the top, and our concerns, and were they aware of that, and so on. They were generally receptive to all 3 of those items, and one suggestion that came out of it was the idea of forming a joint committee between our 2, our commission and their committee, specifically for the purpose of talking about or coordinating things to do with the Crocker Trail. I think that might be a good idea, something we would explore. I don't know if that's how we would go about doing that, or at what time that would become, where in the timeline that would become a valuable thing to do. But that was just my conversation with them. Okay, subcommittee reports.
We met on Habitat, and they chose dates. Earth Day, April 21st. They want to do the Monarch Ridge. And summer, they want to do the Crocker Trail. And then, we don't have a date for the Crocker Trail. And then lagoon cleanup is September 15th. So they chose those dates and those sites. Can you remember anything else?
We picked our T-shirts. So we're gonna do the chorus frog for Monarch Ridge, the turkey vulture for the Cracker Trail, and the snowy egret for the lagoon. We decided to change the start time to 9:30.
Yeah,
So we're
that's
going
right.
9:30 to 12:30. And I think we're tentatively looking at July 14th, but I don't know if that's for sure for the Crocker Trail. But everybody was pretty excited about working on the Crocker
Yeah,
Trail.
July 14th.
Yeah. So that's what I remember.
Okay. Concerts in the park?
The Concerts in the Park Subcommittee met on March 6th with Jeff from the Park and Rec Department. He let us know that all the bands were picked. Starting on June 29th, we have Rolling Heads, which is party music. July 6th, Tom Rigney, Cajun. July 13th, Stephen Ibarra, country. July 20th, Sang Matiz, which is Latin World. July 27th, Zydeco Flames, which is Zydeco. August 3rd, back by popular demand, Diego's Umbrella, which is Gypsy Rock. And then August 10th, we're going to do the DJ dance party again under the gazebo. And we are looking into possibly having the Lions Club do the food that night. We are also trying to get food trucks for all of the other nights, though that has not come through yet, but it's being worked on. The concert banner has been budgeted, and the donation letter went out in all the water bills, and Jeff was just starting to contact all of the businesses, and I think that's about it. But it's practically a done deal now. It's pretty much set for this coming year, and it's going to be a great season. Super excited.
And donations are rolling in already.
Good.
We did vote last night at the Lions Club. We are going to be contributing $1,000 from the Lions because we know that we lost our other funding. So, and then we are donating all the audio and video, or not video, but the DJ and everything. And we're going to do the food for the dance party.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's great.
Great news.
Sharon, that's great.
I'm
And
really excited.
And I've already been getting some good feedback from community about the lineup. They're
Good.
excited. So,
Awesome.
and I do just want to give Teresa some credit in bringing the concerts in the park
Yes.
forward to
Definitely.
year over year. Yeah.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
She's been a driving force, and we hope she stays on that
Yes.
as
That was
a
the other thing
private
that was-
citizen.
That we
I
discussed.
will
is
be
that-
attending subcommittees as a private citizen
Good.
here this month.
Right. Did we have any other subcommittees meet? That's it. Okay, commissioners, any comments from commissioners?
Setting subcommittee meetings.
Oh, I skipped right over that. Setting subcommittee meetings. What subcommittees have to meet between now and Day in the Park? Is it still too early for Day in the Park? No, it's not. Yes, we need to meet. Day in the Park.
Yeah.
That is David and Bonnie. And I'm sorry, I'm taking you off.
Is it two, Sharon? Are you at Day in the Park?
No,
Trying to see where it is.
no, it's Teresa, but she
Oh,
will be.
Brisbane.
Oh, that's
Yeah, no.
right.
It will be open.
Do you want to set that now?
Can't really. I'm going to be pretty full on with the Lions on that day, but I can certainly help it. I mean, I don't need to.
This is for a subcommittee meeting for
Right. I
for.
mean, so
Where?
I could be on
in
a
the park.
subcommittee
Day in the
if
park.
you need.
Yeah, it would just be David and Bonnie. Let's wait and see what new commissioner is appointed, and then we'll
Right.
Yeah, we're going to get one of those.
we'll shuffle the deck. But meanwhile, you guys should get started.
Yep.
So, did you want to find a date?
Yes, that sounds great.
I'm okay no matter what.
You okay no matter what? That's great. Let's see. Would midweek next week be okay?
If you do it next week, I'm technically still here.
That's true.
Oh, that would be good then.
Okay.
March 21st.
Let's just pick a time now.
What date did you
That's a
say?
Wednesday.
Wednesday's not good for me. I actually have a ceramics class.
Let's see.
If you want me to show.
Of course.
Tuesday's out because I have the interview.
Right.
Well then.
So much for being available all the time this time.
Yes, well, I could skip the interview.
Yeah, no, I don't want you to do that.
Is Monday acceptable?
Teresa,
Yes, that
Oh,
works for
72
me.
hours.
what's the date?
The 19th or the 26th? Which one?
Why don't we do the 19th? I'm out of the country on the 26th.
Okay.
19th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And time?
Is 5 p.m. okay?
5?
30's better.
5:30 is so much better for me, so let's
Okay.
take it.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Concerts in the park, we don't need to meet, do we?
I don't think so. I think it's so cut and dry.
We're set. Events, there is no reason for events to meet. It's still too soon for Festival of Lights.
Right.
Habitat Restoration Day, you guys have already met.
We already met. We won't meet again.
We don't need public art to meet. Recreation programs. No?
I don't have anything pressing.
Recreation facilities. Now, the only thing I might, is it under recreation facilities where we might start looking at alternates for the signboards and how do we move that conversation forward?
Yeah. Yeah, so that would be a rec facilities meeting.
And is it too soon to start on that? I mean, what's the next steps for that?
No, I mean, whenever you want to push that forward, you can.
Okay, well, I think that the argument that those signboards are wasteful and environmentally unfriendly is that argument is getting out there and people are paying attention to that. But I think that the second part of that is to start really having a look at what they would be replaced for that's not considered totally distasteful. That's the second part of it. So, what do you think? Should we
No,
start? Should we
should
have a
start it.
subcommittee meeting and just push some ideas around?
Yeah.
And what's your schedule like?
I'm pretty full, but let me know a day and we'll see what works.
Don't forget Renee is also on that, so it would always need
We'll
to
give you a
be
tentative date.
yep, later
about-
in the evening. Thank you, Lyle.
How about the last week of this month? Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, end of the day. Are any of those good for you?
The 28th we could do at 5:30.
Okay.
So we'll put that as tentative, and then we'll get Renee to verify that works for her or not.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay, senior, we don't need to meet.
No, there's no change.
Okay.
I'd like you to come one time, though. So you could see the club, how we work.
Oh, okay. Teen services.
So I'll just mention that the YAC has their next meeting on Wednesday, the 21st. And they'll be debriefing from the event that they just attended.
Mhm.
So I know the commissioners had mentioned attending one of the YAC meetings and making that part of their subcommittee. So I just wanted to put that out there, that's when their next meeting will be held.
David, did you want to drop in on that?
I'm comfortable doing that. Do we want to maybe email
We can mention it, I'll mention it to Renee.
Renee, and that way we can
Yeah.
see if she can attend it?
Sure. Okay.
21st.
I saw some of the pictures and posts on Facebook about that event, and it looked really wonderful.
Yeah, I was going to mention it in my department report. They had a great time.
Trail development, there's nothing pressing on that, and the use of the 280 hill proceeds, nothing pressing on that. Okay,
Just before we move on, what time is the YAC meeting? So I can just put it in my
It
calendar.
starts at 6.
6. Okay.
all right, next up, commissioners. Any thoughts or comments from commissioners? Okay, next up, staff report, program report.
I just have a couple of quick things. The spring camp is coming up. Week 1 starts March 26th through March 30th, and week 2 is April 2nd through April 4th. It is starting to not fill up, but we're starting to get more people registering as it gets closer, which is typically the case. So I think they're going to have a decent, I think week 2 is more full than week 1, but they're going to have a decent amount of kids in there. Club Rec Fall registration starts on April 10th at 8 a.m. online or in the office. So we're not quite sure what to expect with this registration, seeing as though last year filled up and we had a wait list, and I think people are we might get a rush of people that morning, but everybody's aware, or at least they should be, that April 10th is the registration date. And if anybody's out there listening and they want to register online, please do that prior to April 7th. Otherwise, you may not get approved before the actual registration date.
This is for Club Rec or for the?
This is for the, Club Rec, after school, for
Which
next
is-
season.
Which is also the primary school as well?
The after-school program
After-school program for the middle school or for the grade school?
for the grade school.
For the grade school.
Yeah, for the grade school. And then, so, summer camp, it's, okay, I'm sorry. I'm a little behind on that one. The summer camp information is out, and the summer camp starts in June. June 18th, I believe it was, through August. I'm so sorry. That was the one that I didn't put dates on, but it's through the second week of August. So that's coming up, and the activity guide will be out the first week of April. And again, registrations for all of the summer activities opens on April 10th for residents and April 17th for non-residents.
And I just have a few things. Just a reminder that the Park and Rec Commission interviews are being held on March 20th. They changed the date. As mentioned, our Youth Advisory Committee attended a regional event called the Yak Attack last Saturday. 4 of our YAC members were able to attend with Ricardo, and they do it every other year. It's put on by California Parks and Recreation Society, and as I mentioned, it's regional. So there were teens that had youth advisory committees and youth advisory boards from all over the area. There were over like 250 youth that were there, and they had sessions planned throughout the day to focus on a variety of things like teens in leadership and health and wellness. So they just had a really great time kind of being inspired. The keynote speaker his name's Adam Klein. He was on Survivor. He was a winner of CBS Survivor. But he's also a motivational speaker and cancer research advocate. And so they got a kick out of the fact that he was the keynote speaker, and they just had a great time networking with other YACs, and I think came back very inspired. So we're excited to hear what they come up with in their debrief meeting. But it was great to kind of, I know several of you had a hand in getting the YAC revived, and so it's been really nice to see it kind of continually evolve from month to month. So it's exciting. Just wanted to share with the commission, we're anticipating a couple changes to our preschool program. So California State, our preschool program is not licensed, and in order to remain license exempt, we have to limit the number of hours that we have kids enrolled in the program to 12 hours per week. So currently our program is Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, 8:30 to 1. So we exceed license exempt guidelines. And given that, we have to make changes to the program for next year in order to remain license exempt. We did explore the possibility of becoming licensed, and we haven't closed that door, but it's a fairly arduous process. It took South City 2 years to become licensed. And given our current facility, even if we were to apply to be a licensed child care provider, our application would be denied at this time because our facility does not have a restroom inside of it, and our staff don't meet the current qualifications of licensing restrictions. So Stuart and myself and Steve and Marcella had a meeting with parents last week to share the information with them, talk about what their needs are and how we choose to decide to restructure the program for the fall. Because we have to stay under 12 hours. The discussion was mostly around whether or not we would go to being a 4-day-a-week program, which the program used to be a couple years ago. It was 4 days a week, 3 hours a day, or if we would offer 2 options, a 3-day-a-week option and a 2-day-a-week option, like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and a Tuesday, Thursday. That would be longer days, but fewer days per week. So we had some really good participation from the parents. We had maybe like 15 parents in attendance, and we're going to be sending out a survey to our existing enrolled families, other families in town that have kids that might be coming into the program next year are also able to complete the survey, but we're really just looking for feedback from the community about what their needs are in terms of childcare for their preschool age kids, so that we can try to best structure the program going forward to meet the needs of the community. So I just wanted to share that with the commission, that that's going to be coming, and we're kind of working through all of the logistics of that, and that down the road we may be exploring the licensing option when we have a new modular in place, because we recognize that there's a child care crisis in the area and that there's really a significant need, and that none of the cities on the peninsula are meeting the current need and demand for child care. So we're working with various agencies to find ways to best meet that demand. So just as a heads up, that's probably going to be coming in front of the commission at some point. We have 2 staff members that are at the CPRS, the California Park and Rec Society annual conference this week. Jeff and Ricardo are down in Long Beach. So we'll ask them to bring back some good nuggets that they take with them as part of their trek down there. We're opening the call for nominations for the Volunteer of the Year. So we'll be putting an announcement in the April Star. Usually we start accepting nominations April 1st. So just wanted to make mention of that. We also have several recruitments open in the department for head lifeguards, recreation aides, which are youth under 16. And that's mostly for summer camp, and then recreation leaders 18 and over, as well as facility attendants. So all of those recruitments are open on CalUps. People can apply online. And upcoming events, we have the 3rd concert of Live at Mission Blue on Saturday night. We have the next dive-in movie at the pool coming on March 24th, next Saturday at 7:30. It's a throwback movie. They're going to show E.T. So hopefully the weather permits, and I know that we've had to cancel 1 or 2 based on weather, so we're hoping it is nice to us so that we can have the event. And then San Francisco Shakespeare Festival will do their annual presentation performance at Mission Blue on Sunday, March 25th, and they're going to be performing Romeo and Juliet, and that's a free event for the community. So hopefully people come out and partake in the opportunity. And that's all I have.
Okay. Moving on to commission calendar. So at our next meeting, you are going to bring back proposed fee increases.
That's correct.
With a look at those that are really small and might escape year over year. And then we will welcome a new commissioner at the next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
We will have our reorg at the next meeting.
We usually wait 1 meeting in between new commissioners and then the reorg. So we let them attend 1 meeting before we reseat.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll put that on May.
That would be on May.
If that's okay.
Okay. And would are we also going to wait another month before we take a look at the subcommittees and try to include that
Yeah, I think we should do that at the same time that we do the reorg.
so that they can get their bearings?
Yes.
Okay. And anything else? What else is on our next?
The other thing I was going to bring back was the draft work plan that came out of our commission workshop last week, so that the commission can fine tune it before we kind of adopt it and move forward.
Okay. Okay, and that brings us to the end.
Well,
Before we adjourn or after we adjourn?
you can do it before.
Let's do it before we adjourn.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you want me to start?
Sure.
Okay, well, I just want to thank Teresa for her 4 years of service.
Three.
Three.
Yes,
3.
3. I was coming in on end of somebody else's term, I guess, or, yeah, Lyle and I, it's 3 years. We came in on the same time.
Kevin's so
Okay. My counting's
Feels
bad. Well,
like 4.
in that case, then never mind. I have nothing to do.
Sorry.
Well, you've accomplished an awful lot in those 3 years.
Feels like 4.
You've accomplished an awful lot in those 3 years, and I've had the chance to work with you on a number of subcommittees. We talked about Concerts in the Park, where I think you've made a really important impact.
Definitely.
And set precedent for moving forward, and I do hope that you keep your foot in that door. Of course, Day in the Park also has had a big change, in part due to your ideas and stuff that you've brought to it, and also Teen Services, which I served on that subcommittee with you as well, which really was sort of kaput when we got involved.
Yes.
So I think you've made a really great contribution, and it's true of any community leader who has the skills and the commitment of somebody like you, that everybody wants a piece of you. And I know you've got other commitments that have forced you to make a decision, which of course I support. But I trust that you and I will be working together on some other community activities in the future, many times in the future. So thank you so much for your service to us here on Parks and Rec Commission.
Well, thank all of you.
Thank you.
I've learned so much. I've really enjoyed being on the commission and working with all of you. I'm really going to miss that, I'm not going to be working with you or with David. You guys are great. You're a great addition, and I wish we had more time together, but maybe I'll be back.
Yeah.
Well, you can take a little break and then reapply.
You did that.
I did that, so,
I
It's
hear there's
possible.
been precedent for that with
Yeah.
a few people, so,
yeah.
yeah.
Kevin touched on much of what I was going to add, just the significant contributions that you've made to the department and really enhancing the quality of life for residents and really bringing the passion to the table in a valuable perspective. And you will be sorely missed, and we thank you for the dedication, and we hope that you won't be a stranger and that you'll
Not be a stranger.
still attend subcommittee meetings as a resident, and we welcome you to do so. So thank you very
Great.
much.
Thank you.
And I'm not going to say anything because I'll start crying because I'm really sensitive like that, but I will miss you.
Aw.
You have brought a lot of stuff to the table, especially with Day in the Park and all the ideas that you came up with, the pie eating contest and the dog costume contest and things that I guess they used to do those things way back in the day, but not since I've been around have I seen any of that. So very much
Been fun.
appreciated. Thank you for bringing the fun back to Day in the Park.
Aw.
I look forward to working with you on that on Monday.
Yes. It'll be fun. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, anything else? Then this meeting is adjourned at 7:24.
That was short.
Yeah. I'm going to make my...